Oh, here's all the property tax. By the way, the total amount of the value of their property is 6.5 million, and right now for redemption in about 3 weeks they need 13 million. And I don't know, you can't just buy a part of it from the Bank of Scotland. In the receiver documents, in the receivership documents, and by the way, it looks to me like the receiver has their offices here in Maplewood. But the receiver documents that were listed at the Star Tribune website, and these are filed in Hennepin County, by the way, it says that the plan for liquidation of all the assets for Lakeland Construction Financial LLC, all those assets that belong to that financial corporation, which of course this Copar land is a portion of, are all part of a plan for liquidation, a bulk sale. And it says here from the receiver, we have met with 2 parties that have expressed an interest in looking at the value of the portfolio. One party declined to make an offer for the value of the portfolio. The second party has given us their preliminary indication of a value that's subject to due diligence. But this particular company, Lakeland Construction Finance LLC, the extent of this bulk liquidation, bulk sale is $500 million. So I've got the receivership documents there. And so where does this put all of the best of well wishes? Well, it shows that we all have to do our due diligence before we decide that we've got some big plan, because we're trying to keep it secret from the rest of the council. And you see, this is not, and Mr. Fisher, you can laugh all you want, but this is not a funny thing. This is not a funny thing. It is not a funny thing. This is a very serious thing. But there is a chance, something that I think maybe might be a helpful thing, because this is something that I mentioned before in this article from the Minnesota Housing Wastelands that was in Star Tribune, is that one of the other cities in the metro area here who ended up kind of holding the bag with regard to a development in their town that has bluffs, that they're trying to negotiate to try to get that property for their city on like 50 cents on the dollar. Now, we could maybe try to negotiate and get the whole parcel, because it is part of a totally worthless paper portfolio. And so this might be a great opportunity that we can get something better than what we thought of. But one thing that I calculated at when I looked at this is that this is another thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, is that that negotiated price that's in that developer's agreement, which now of course it's in default, and so we have some remedies under that, not much. But that $2.4 million, from my calculations, looks like it's for what, between 4 to 6 acres for the property?
If you include the outlots that we can get with it, it's, I think, more like 32 or 34.
Okay. So one of the things that a lot of times that some people don't realize is that the property value that was set with was based on an appraisal that Copar obtained as a result of litigation, of trying to maximize their damages in the litigation. Nobody realizes that the city never had an appraisal done in that litigation, our own competing appraisal. Nobody knows that. And if they do, they forgot it. But the city didn't get an appraisal in that litigation. For a multi-million-dollar case, we don't have an appraisal to compete against the price that Copar set for their own price to tell us what it would be worth for damages in litigation. So, with all of that said, I think that we need to do a little bit more investigation on figuring out what our options are considering all this, because this sheriff's sale occurred March 4th, 2009. We had our council meeting March 9th. Okay, and we were supposed to get a report to come back to us to tell us exactly this. Report on the status of what Copar is doing. That was one of the things, that was the first thing, Mr. Nephew, you had asked for. That was a great question. You were so close to the truth, that there was something indeed we should know, but we didn't know what it was. Now we know what it was, and how this could be missed, and how nobody could bother to tell us that that land was totally foreclosed on. I don't know. I don't know where the ball got dropped. I haven't a clue. But I can tell you, I spent 6 to 8 hours on going down to the county, doing all this research and figuring out all this stuff that for some reason, no one here knew how to tell the council. So now that we know this and we have all the information, now maybe we can figure out how to put together the pieces that have a positive outcome rather than hiding the ball. Mr. Nephew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, the March 9th meeting was probably the second or third after the one where I wanted that council presentation, but it kept getting tabled because our meetings ran too late.
Well, that's true. It did happen.
Which is true.
Yeah.
And it may be that the conversations that staff had earlier were from the reminder, since I think that when we approved the settlement agreement last year, we opened the possibility of purchasing that land, and I think had in general direction given the staff an interest in bringing something back to us. And because nothing had come back to us, that's why I really wanted to put that on the agenda and make sure that the whole council was behind it. My perception from that meeting and from the subsequent meeting where we talked about it again was that the entire council was interested in acquiring the land. So a couple of things. At the meeting on the 23rd, I think that I may have seen some draft, but I don't think that the bill had been introduced yet. But I recall that the entire city council the next day, or maybe even later that night, got an email from Chuck Uyghur saying that he had watched our meeting and seen our discussion, and that as an immediate follow-up to that, he was introducing the Senate bill. So I think that the feeling in our representatives from watching our discussions was that we were on board with it, even though we didn't take formal action on it. With respect to the bill itself, I'm in favor of the resolution, and I think that there are a couple of features about the bill that are very important. One is that the bill does not say who in particular land is being acquired from. It talks about the Fish Creek Greenway. There's been a tendency to focus on Copar, understandably, because we had a specific option with a deadline on it. But the thing about the bill is that it's about the greenway that we identified in our comp plan. And I actually think that that is a good thing, and like that it's written that way, because as we've done things in the South Leg, we, for example, in discussing the interim amendments to the R1R ordinance, found that there are other interested landowners down there that are also in the Fish Creek corridor and may be interested in selling to the city if the opportunity arose. And so my feeling, and I believe I said this when Representative Slawick asked me to testify at the legislature for the bill, was that it was very important that we were not being locked into a specific parcel. We identified things that were of interest to us because of the particular character of both the bluffland type areas in the Copar property and the area that has the archaeological site, for example. But the bill, if it went forward, would not limit us to having to buy from any particular seller or buy any particular parcel if we found we got more mileage for the money acquiring other parcels, whether in terms of raw acreage or in terms of the ecological significance of it. So I think that that's a really key element in it. The news about Copar, I was not aware of that. I don't have the legal expertise to know what it means for our development agreement. My assumption has been that the Delva